When it comes to mixing art with movies, some people would think about either posters or even actual art made to dedicate the film. But Blu-ray and DVD covers would often get overlooked. Sure, sometimes they just copy-paste the poster onto it, but sometimes they can turn out some nice work that greatly represent the film. But like all forms of art, for every good cover made, there's always a bad one that would ultimately make the movie look stupid. Now, what I'm gonna do for this top 10 is that I'll be focusing purely on the covers of the Blu-rays and DVDs. It doesn't matter if the film itself is either really awesome or one of the worst. If the cover fails to sell the movie and it looks like some cheap arts and crafts job, then you might find it on this list. If you don't have an appreciation for DVD and Blu-ray covers then, you will now once you see what happens when they don't give a crap. I'm Animat, and these are the top 10 worst DVD and Blu-ray covers. Number 10, Groundhog Day, the special 15th anniversary edition. The movie has been recognized by many to be one of the definitive films that presents Bill Murray doing what he does best, being Bill Murray. Which somehow, this cover fails to do so. I mean, when you look at his face, it feels like there's something a bit off about him that would tell our brain that this is not Bill Murray. At least, not in the way that he looks in the film. Check it out. Bill Murray? Not Bill Murray. Bill Murray? Not Bill Murray. It looks like he was done some kind of makeup job in a desperate attempt to make him look younger. And don't even get me started about those hands. I don't know whose is it, but they clearly don't look like they belong to Bill. But then you also have the signature clock, which is usually where you would find him in the posters. But I guess now he's both holding it and in it, where now he's got the second stuck up his butt. The only thing that I can relate to in here is Andie MacDowell, who looks more relieved that she didn't get the same treatment as Bill did. Number 9, And Justice for All. For the most part, this looks like the cover of your typical lawyer movie. You got a city backdrop, a courthouse, and the American flag for good measure. But the real problem here comes from the star of the movie, Al Pacino, presented in a hilariously bad Photoshop job. Seriously, you could easily tell that whoever worked on this just cut off Pacino's head and placed in some random body just to make him look like Saul Goodman or something. And if you need further proof that this is the case, here is the DVD released before the Blu-ray with the exact same head. It's like one of those things where once you see it, the illusion is entirely destroyed and can't unsee the phoniness. This man needs the best lawyer in town? More like he needs the best graphic artist in town. Number 8, Food Fight. For those who were unfortunate enough to witness what is widely regarded as the worst animated film of all time, they would know that two of the main characters are Dex Dogtective and Sunshine Goodness, which you can find them right here in the cover. Just behind these guys that are much more prominently featured. Yeah, this cover would legit shove off their main characters in order to make room for Charlie Tuna, Vlasic the Stork, Twinkie the Kid, and Mrs. Buttersworth, whom all their appearances combined don't even add up to a minute. Yet here they are, acting like they're like the stars of this show, and it's all about them. This would be exactly like if Disney made a poster for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and they put in Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, and Woody Woodpecker as the headliners. Oh, and don't forget Eddie Valiant and Roger Rabbit in that small corner. I mean, we gotta put the main characters somewhere, right? Number 7, Near Dark. For those of you who don't know, Near Dark is actually a pretty awesome film that is said to be one of the reasons why vampire movies were taken seriously in the 1980s. However, I guess this Blu-ray took it more as a joke. Would anyone expect this to be the action-packed gore fest that would satisfy the need of any vampire fan by looking at that cover? Of course not! The way that it presents itself makes it look like a freaking Twilight ripoff. Especially the way that it makes the guy look like the main vampire and the girl as the human. which if you have seen the movie, it's actually the other way around. I understand that not everyone has seen this movie, but is it so hard to ask the film's cover to tell me what it's about? Number 6, Real Genius. As you can imagine, getting electrocuted sounds like a pretty painful experience, and that's probably putting it very lightly. But apparently, according to this cover, Val Kilmer seems impervious to it. You have all these shockers around him putting in millions of volts onto his head, and he's just standing there looking as if he's just mildly confused. It's like if the photographer took a shot and Kilmer didn't even notice. Hey Val, don't worry, I know how you feel, bro, because as far as my knowledge on the movie goes, I don't remember you getting electrocuted like this either. Number 5, Apollo 13. As you can see, this is just a very generic cover that only contains the title and the actors playing as the astronauts. But what makes this one uncomfortably weird is that it has to put in a comic filter for no reason. I mean, sure, there are other covers as well that uses the same filter and doesn't make sense either. But this is the one where it looks the most pointless. I mean, this has nothing to do with comics at all. It's a true story about a failed space mission. Why even use that filter at all? Now, some can argue that the filter is meant to capture that Roy Lichtenstein effect, but all it does is just make the actors look like a sack of potatoes, and one of them from each is slightly out with tiny beady eyes and large lips. Number 4, this stupid trend. You know exactly what I'm talking about with this trend, and it dominated plenty of DVD and Blu-ray covers. Allow me to explain how this works. First, you got a simple color as your background. Then, you got an uncomfortable close-up of the character's face. And finally, just put the title on top. There, that's apparently enough to make a cover. Beforehand, it started out with Fox when they used it on their animated films like the ones from Blue Sky and DreamWorks, but then it really got out of hand when other studios were doing it as well, like Universal, Sony, even Pixar was doing it to their older films. It's even worse when they do it on a bad animated film, where now it gives you no choice but to look at the details of how poorly designed these monstrosities are. I remember when covers used to tell you a little bit of what the movie would be about. But nowadays, you look at this and it feels like it's saying,
"Take a closer look at that snout."
And it's not just on animated features either. Companies are starting to do that with live action films too. There was a time when audiences had a choice to watch either Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore. But now these covers are asking you, would you like Adam Sandler with a hat or with a golf ball in his mouth? I'm sorry that I'm going on about this one, but this is seriously a huge issue. It is true that simplicity can be its own art form and can result in some good covers, but there is a fine line between being artistic and being lazy, and these ones just plain suck. Okay, before I get into my number 3, I just want to say one more thing about the last one. If I must find one good thing to say about that trend, is that at the very least, it's easy to identify what the movie is by looking at the cover. For example, here we have a picture of Shrek. So naturally, this is the Blu-ray cover of Shrek. Now, without looking at the title, can anyone guess what this movie is? You don't know? Come on, it's pretty obvious when you see it. Give up? It's Last Action Hero. You could tell because it has Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's holding a gun. You know, just like in every single one of his action movies. Number 2, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. If there's one thing that's far worse than being generic, it's also being stupid. This version of the cover not only got into the stupid trend route by giving us this dark blue background with only Spider-Man and the villain of the feature, but they had to make the boneheaded decision of adding in a giant number at the bottom to emphasize which film it is of the trilogy. Now, to its credit, it does make sense with the first film so that we have Spider-Man 1. But then the idea gets immediately destroyed when we move forward with Spider-Man 2, 2, and Spider-Man 3, 3. Why do you have to repeat the number? It's so moronically pointless. And the worst part is, the cover would be much better without him because it's still very easy to identify which film from the trilogy it is. We all know that Green Goblin is in the first one, the second has Doc Ock, and the third is with the symbiote that makes Spidey's suit black. Oh, and did I forget to mention, the number is already in the title! It is true, though, that they all come in a box set, which on its own is fine and explains how the covers are similar in style. But when you open it to find the covers themselves, you'll find that they are as stupid and pointless as that big number. And the #1 worst DVD and Blu-ray cover is... Are you ready for this? Well, either way, nothing's gonna prepare you for this disaster. Space Jam, the 20th anniversary Blu-ray Steelbook. Regardless of what you think about the movie, this cover is like the Blu-ray equivalent of a train wreck. No matter where you look, you can always find something that feels horribly wrong about it. In fact, why don't we just take the time to just analyze this? It'll be like a fun little game of spot the problem. Well, first off, you got Michael Jordan just taking over half the cover. I know he's the star of the movie, but he's not really giving room for other characters. I can even tell that Lola's not happy about it. Then you have these random shots of Elmer Fudd and Taz that somehow made them not look like Taz or Elmer Fudd. Then there's Bugs Bunny, whom I guess is more important to have him hold a bottle of Michael's secret stuff than to have eyebrows. And then there's Tweety, who looks like he's gonna take a crap that'll be 10 times his size. As for the original characters in the movie, that's another batch of randomness there. You have a bunch of random cheerleading nerdlucks, no, not the main ones, just the little extras, and you got the green guy in the corner. That's it! Unless you count the blue guy popping his head on the side like he's asking, "Yo, I'm getting a sandwich, want me to get you anything?" And to top that all off, the wrong colors are on the title. What makes it even worse than having the randomest batch of characters on display is that they look so inconsistent from one another in terms of their shading. Some of them look like they were taken directly from the movie, others look like they had to be recolored to look more simple than they do in the film, and then you have this giant picture of Michael Jordan. It really does beg the question, what's wrong with the previous cover? It was fine as it is, but why not just use the poster? In fact, why didn't any of them just use the poster instead of making a disastrous mess? They seriously doubt what a bad cover can do, making it look like a bad Photoshop job, something that poorly represents what the film is about, or just looks flat out lazy. Screw these movies, man. Might as well replace them with a piece of paper and write the title with a Sharpie. There, I'm finished.